The extreme sports genre of games is one that I get particularly stoked about, especially snowboarding games. I fondly remember playing 1080 snowboarding for the first time and really enjoying it, but it was truly SSX that blew my mind. Unfortunately, the extreme sports genre is almost dormant currently, so when I came across Snowboarding The Next Phase, I had to give it a look. More so, I also learned that as I was downloading the game, that developers from the SSX series worked on this game. This knowledge further excited me though for the experience that had waited as I fired it up. So, is this a ride worth taking, or is it stuck on the bunny hill? Let's find out. Snowboarding The Next Phase, odd title aside, is a trick-style snowboarding game that's published and sponsored by Red Bull and developed by Session Games. You will tackle the game's career mode, which consists of over 60 events and has multiple missions to complete in each event. Each event mixes between a free movement area to explore, which allows you to grab geotags and go off of jumps to pull off tricks, and an on-rails segment where you're solely focusing on going off of jumps to trick off of. Some events are strictly one or the other, but there are events where they incorporate both styles together. Events are pretty short and take no more than about a minute to complete. Completing missions is where the progression system kicks in. Each event has 3 missions for you to complete. Once you complete these missions, you will unlock rewards that increase your overall point multiplier. Your point multiplier is essential to partaking in later levels, as before starting an event, it showcases the recommended multiplier you should be at to succeed. There is a total of 9 missions for every event, broken down into 3 missions for bronze difficulty, then silver, and then gold. I mentioned that developers from the SSX series were involved in this, so you're probably wondering if the controls and trick movement are as smooth as those titles were. Well, for the most part, yes. Going off of jumps, rotating and flipping your boarder while pulling off tricks is very simple and engaging. You use the left analog stick to easily flip and rotate the board, the face buttons to pull off grabs, and the ZL and ZR buttons to tweak a grab. Landing tricks perfectly, or stomping it rather, will also double your trick value. It's definitely an accessible trick system, and the controls are very responsive. What's very cool are the photo opportunities. Some objectives require passing through a photo icon to pull off a certain trick. When doing this, the game goes into a stylistic approach showing the trick you're pulling off from a cinematic camera angle, and after the trick is done, it shows the final image. What's even cooler is that at the end of a run, the game automatically captures this to your Switch album. Aside from the game's career mode, there's also an arcade mode and local multiplayer mode for up to 2 players. Arcade mode is essentially like an endless mode, where you have to complete objectives, but if you fail to complete at least one objective in one of your runs, you will lose a ticket. You get 3 tickets, and if you lose all those, the game's over. As you play through, it will progressively get more challenging. Multiplayer works as you'd expect it to as well. 2 players face off in a trick competition and see who can score the most points. It's basic, but it works and is enjoyable for a bit. What is nice is that the developers have implemented a control scheme for every possible controller method: dual Joy-Cons, split Joy-Con, and Pro Controller support. Sounds promising so far, right? Well, it is for the most part, but there are a few shortcomings that need to be mentioned. First off, the lack of a character select or a custom creation does hurt it a bit. You play solely as one guy with different outfits that change based on how much you level up. It would have been nice to have multiple different characters to play as, or at the very least, a custom character creator, even a basic one at least. Second, as an SSX veteran myself, I would have preferred a pre-winding mechanic before going off of jumps. I'm not so much of a fan of still moving the boarder while prepping for a jump as I prepare to flip and rotate the boarder in the air. Additionally, the lack of online, while not a huge issue, is still noticeable and would have been a nice addition. At the same time though, the game is only $9.99, so I could see why the online play wasn't incorporated. Another thing I wish they did was add an option to advance or retry an event after reaching the bottom of the run. There were times I didn't complete all my objectives in a single run and wanted to retry the event, but had to sit through a load screen back to the level select menu and then load the event back again. While the loading is not very long by any means, it does ruin the flow a little bit when you're in this circumstance. Thankfully, you can actually pause the game and retry the event, and what I've noticed is that even if you retry the event after completing some objectives, not all of them, it'll still save that completion data. The last thing is, the arcade mode, while fun for a bit, is basically just fun for a bit. It does start to get a little stale the longer you start playing it, and you start to realize that it's definitely a game that's better designed for short bursts than long play sessions. Visually, Snowboarding The Next Phase has a very clean appearance. The game does run at a locked 60 frames a second, which is impressive. Environments are also nicely detailed, and the character model is pretty good, more particularly when it comes to its animation for the most part. There were a few instances where the animation was a little wonky with the flips. The game's presentation is also really cool, and I liked seeing the start of each event having a stylized look to it, showcasing the name of the mountain or the run that you were doing. Another nice detail is the drone that's following you during the event. It's a nice touch that showcases the camera following your character is actually the drone itself. In terms of audio, the game's soundtrack does a great job of capturing the experience. Snowboarding games need catchy bump-in tunes, and this game definitely has them. Sound effects are also very well done and help add to the overall experience. Snowboarding The Next Phase may be the only snowboard offering on the Switch currently, especially after Ubisoft's cancellation of Steep, but it's a really good game that kept me coming back for more. It could use some more tweaks and improvements, but it's a great first effort on the Switch from the team at Session Games. The game is perfect for pick up and play sessions, the trick system is reminiscent of SSX, if a bit more on the basic side, and the audio is great. Here's hoping we see more from this development team. That's why I'm giving Snowboarding The Next Phase a 7.5 out of 10.